G'day guys, and welcome to another week of AHGL action. This week, for week number 7, Maynarde and Zepph, we are going to be bringing you Intel versus Twitter, and we are really excited for this matchup, aren't we, Zepph?
Yeah, definitely. It's looking to be like a really sick match. Some good games. We have not watched these as usual, so the excitement is there as much for us as it will be for you guys.
That's right. We do have to cast some replays, but we have not watched them, I promise. And that way we keep the excitement, because we're really bad at lying. We wouldn't lie to you guys anyway, so we're just going to give you some genuine excitement, genuine energy from these casts. And in fact, we've got some new little production gimmickies here, so let's get into this game number 1 overlay that I got for everybody. And as we can see, game number 1 is going to be on Newkirk City, one of the new HOTS maps, and it's going to be between Preeminence and Twitter Decisive. And this is going to be a PvP. Now, PvP on Heart of the Swarm is a little bit crazy. I think it's a little bit hard to read, at least for me, as coming into a new game after playing Wings of Liberty for so long. It's just really hard to gauge what the Protoss is doing when they take early gases. Generally, it means Stargate, because that's the flavor of the month right now. But there is all sorts of crazy DTs, and just being aware of all these things at once just seems like a really hard thing to do right now. And you got to be pretty high level to read your other opponent in PvP. How do you feel about PvP in the Heart of the Swarm right now, my friend?
Yeah, it's looking a little bit tricky still. PvP's always been one of those matchups like CVD that's kind of awkward to figure out, especially since the Mothership Core has come out. It's really changed the early game and changed the issue of every build has to be centered around the fact that you don't want to die to 4-gate. So that's changed it up a little bit, and there's lots of different things. The late game even is not so much Colossus zapping each other, because of course we have Void Rays, which are super good right now. So it'll be really, really interesting to see how this plays out.
There are just so many ways to kill your opponent in PvP. And speaking of killing your opponent in PvP, let's do that right now, shall we?
Let's do it.
Jumping into game number 1 between Preeminence and Decisive. Here we go. Alright, in the bottom right, we have got Decisive from Twitter. And in the bottom left,
spawning close air positions, actually, as Newkirk City, I believe it is, always does. It is the Blue Protoss Preeminence.
That's right. This is a 1 or 2 player map, so there is no corner spawn locations. The locations that they have spawned in are the only places, so right away off the bat, both players know exactly where their opponent is, which is going to be good for proxy shenanigans, should either player opt to do that. And also very, very good for Stargate play. As we can see, the air distance between both bases is quite small.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be pretty cool to see what goes on. I mean, they know exactly where each other are. And the rush distance is actually not that long. Not only that, but there are a lot of choke and a very wide ramp for your naturals. So I'm quite curious to see what sort of openers we're going to be starting off with. I believe Preeminence actually played a PvP last round. And unfortunately, he lost despite having a build order win in which he went Immortals versus a Blink build. So perhaps that is still what he likes to do. Immortals definitely very common in Wings of Liberty, so it'll be interesting to see if he decides to go for an Immortal play in this PvP also.
It will be interesting. Immortals, of course, still very useful in the matchup, regardless of the fact that most of the things being made these days fly. Can still always be worried about Stalkers. They're extremely effective against Stalkers and just very good at killing things in general. So, let's see that both players pretty much doing the same thing right now. Gas is about the same time. Preeminence taking that in-base pylon a little bit quicker. I was just, a little bit worried there. Seeing, a couple seconds later, Twitter Decisive. Thought maybe he was dropping something out there on the map, but no. That is 2 in-base pylons. Neither player proxying each other, being gentlemen.
Yep. Looks like they're just eager to get a scout off, have a good look, see at what's going on, making sure that they're not going to get cheesed or anything. It can sometimes be a nice way out of PvP if you desperately don't like it. Yeah.
And Twitter Decisive can see that pretty much everything is normal in Preeminence's main. We can see that the second gas is quite a bit later for Twitter Decisive. He's opting to drop a second gateway instead. What do you think about this?
Well, he may not take it at all. Of course, more gates means he's going to have more units earlier on, so he may go for a little bit of a pressure. That is definitely something he might do. Otherwise, he might just be stocking up gas for a Mothership Core, because some people like to get that very early on and use it for time warps on the mineral line, harass, all that good stuff.
Now, I've seen some players actually experiment with later Mothership cores, trying to incorporate it into the mid-game instead of worrying about it in the early game. But I think PvP is one of those matchups where you have to have it.
Yeah, it really helps with that sort of security I mentioned earlier about having to cater every build to the 4 gate in a just-in-case scenario. But again, I mean, the Mothership core is not the be-all end-all of early game aggression, because you can snipe it, you can still get into the base and do some damage. So if you notice in this game so far, neither player is really bothered. They're just going for stalkers, which are obviously still extremely important in the early game for PvP.
Absolutely, and we can see that first tech shift going down for Decisive, getting that Stargate, and because of this later gas, it will delay high-cost gas units like the Void Ray. The Oracle is still quite expensive. I think it's 150, 150? No, maybe 100, 150. It costs 150 gas anyway. It's quite expensive. It's an investment, and I do believe we will see it though, because this is Heart of the Swarm, and it's a bit of a hype unit right now. A lot of people are getting a lot of early damage done with it, and sometimes just straight up winning with that Oracle. All this one Stalker in this probe need to be careful.
Yeah, then
superior numbers for Preeminence.
Yeah, only bringing up with one Stalker. He will get a kind of idea of what Preeminence has, because early game, you know, Hurdles don't straight up expand. He'll know that there's that much gas now dedicated to Stalkers, but he's still thinking, okay, what is your tech?
Void Ray is the option from Caesar. And this is an extremely strong unit. It has been buffed quite nicely in Heart of the Swarm. It has that, it doesn't have that level 3 charge, but it has a whenever you want it level 2 charge, which is really, really, really handy for burst damage. And we can also see that Decisive has opted for no Mothership core, while Preeminence has. Just keeping that in the main right now. Looks like, I'm pretty sure the Mothership core only shoots down, so it won't help him against Stargate units.
Yeah.
Preeminence actually has a pylon in the main of Caesar, but the Void Ray has spotted it.
Yeah, that Void Ray is going to save the day there and clear that right up. And Preeminence has indeed gone for a Robo build. Once again this game, he's dropped an expansion quite early too, and it'll be interesting to see if he can actually hold this off. He doesn't, he has 5 Stalkers. Let's have a look at the unit count. 5 Stalkers each, but we've got a Void Ray out for Caesar.
Yeah. Looks like Preeminence got some Zealots into the main here.
Wow.
Couple probe kills. Oh, 4 workers killed, in fact, with those Zealots. How the hell did they get in here? I didn't even see that. They must have been warped in from that proxy pylon. Preeminence starting another one, but the Void Ray will see this one as well.
What a sneaky snake. And this is actually delaying the Void Ray immensely. This could have been over in Preeminence's base already, harassing the mineral line, while the rest of his units harass the front and try and be a bother there. But instead, you know, he's now seen all the tech, and he's been a bit of a bother. So I suppose we just have to wait and see if this aggression from Caesar is actually going to work.
Mothership core now on the way for Caesar behind this aggression, which is heading across the middle of the map. Blink on the way for Preeminence. And he does have an observer as well, which is sending straight to the main of Caesar. He does not know about this attack just yet. Will he be able to hold? It's going to be rough now that he's taking that expansion. That's a lot of minerals.
He won't have Blink, and this may be even Stalker numbers, but he's got 2 Void Rays to contend with. He cannot lose any Stalkers, or he's not going to be able to deal with them. And it looks like these units are just going to work on the Nexus. I'm not sure if it's a smart idea to even defend this, but he's going to try.
Oh my god. He kind of has to. He's coming down here with some Stalkers. The Photon overcharge going down the Nexus.
Delicious.
More Stalkers being warped in on the high ground. His own Mothership core kind of AFK at the in the main here. We'd really like that to have down here to handle the Stalkers. The Void Rays are getting targeted down with the Nexus, and just Stalkers left on the ground. This spell on the Nexus is so handy for Preeminence. He keeps the natural.
That is so sick. If he can continue to hold, he will be in a world of wonderful minerals, because he has that extra expansion now. That was just so sick. He used the targeting very nicely on those Void Rays, but here comes round 2. The Photon overcharge is still in play.
Time warp going down on the Stalkers on the ramp, and the Nexus may get sniped here. This is a lot of units here, and he does get the Nexus. Loses a Mothership core and a few Stalkers, but I think that was definitely a cost-effective move there. Lost a lot of his army though, losing the Void Rays, and looks like he is going to continue with Void Ray production, so it looks like he's not done with aggressing yet.
Well, all is not lost. Preeminence actually going for a DT Shrine. Very, very interesting. I actually quite like that. And at the same time, Blink has just finished up, so he actually kind of has control of the map in my eyes right now, because he's a lot more mobile than Caesar. I mean, yeah, Void Rays are mobile, but Stalkers kind of do well against those sort of lone air units.
They do. Dark Shrine takes 1,000,000 years to make. Twitter Caesar just warping in some offensive units here to try and put more screws to Preeminence. Doesn't want him to take that natural back because it looks like he is actually looking to take his own base at some point here. He does have a probe and a pylon situated to defend that when that happens. Let's have a look at the worker count here. Preeminence with the worker lead, but only by 4, 32 to the 28. So really negligible econ difference.
Yeah, well, Caesar's been doing non-stop units pretty much, apart from maybe getting a couple of extra pylons and whatnot. And he's really not floating very much. Everything's just coming straight into reinforcements. So he's going to try and do something here again, perhaps delay the expansion. He's got a pylon up on the high ground of the Nat here.
And Caesar's coming in to try and kill this Nexus again. Force fielding the ramp, what a great move, but he does have Blink. These Stalkers will need to come down and defend, or is he going to sack the natural? Looks like he's just going to let it die.
Yeah. I think he's realized that there's just too many Stalkers down there. He's going to have to use the Immortal and the high ground advantage to hold that off. Plus some Blink micro, doesn't want to risk it. Fair enough, but it is a shame that he's had to lose that Nexus twice now.
He has. Warping in a DT now, though.
Ooh, Sneaky Snake, where did it warp in?
I'm trying to find it.
It's just next to like the possible third under his main. Yeah, he's got a couple coming out.
Couple DTs, Brothers in Arms. There can be an Archon a little bit later, but I think he'd much prefer to use them as cloaked units because as we look at Twitter Cease's main, there is no Forge, there is no Robo. This could just be a straight up build order win here.
Yeah, this is why it's okay for him to be losing that Nexus, because he's going to do damage with this. He's guaranteed damage. I think Caesar might have seen little blips move past his army.
Depends how much attention he was paying to this army here. He didn't have them selected at the time. DT's now heading into the main. This could just cause Caesar to GG or just try and go all in with the base race.
I think he'd have to counterattack. There's nothing else he's going to be able to do. He will lose his entire mineral line before anything else can happen. He is also supply blocked right now. Really not a place he wants to be. And wow, Preeminence looking pretty strong on the top of the ramp here.
And Caesar's being a little bit indecisive with his units, just marching them forward, then marching them back. Looks like he wants to wait for the probe train before going all in. He has lost his entire base worth of workers. Natural not taken. Meanwhile, Preeminence trying to take his again. All Preeminence needs to do is hold this attack, and he should be fine.
This is going to end very, very shortly. It is all or nothing for Caesar, but there's DTs to contend with in this army. I don't think he can win if it comes down to it.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll soon see what happens. Here he comes up the ramp.
He has to not lose the Void Rays.
Yeah, Preeminence is not taking any risks. He's sitting up in his main.
The Photon Overcharge going down on the Nexus. Force Field going down the ramp. The Nexus will die. Will it take any units out with it? No, it won't. It did damage one Stalker heavily, though. And Time Warp going down on all the units on the high ground. Preeminence needs to hold here. It's looking good for Twitter Caesar.
Great use of the Mothership Core. Preeminence's own Mothership Core doing some damage, but gets taken out. That's a really important tool for Preeminence. He's trying to make the DTs do as much damage as possible because he knows he doesn't have the units to hold this off. Otherwise, the Nexus has been killed for Caesar. Can Preeminence do it?
Preeminence still has a DT down there on the ramp amongst the army of Caesar, just destroying everything one by one. His Zealots are going down. He doesn't really care about those. He needs to kill these Void Rays, and then his DTs should be able to finish off the rest.
One goes down. This DT doing so much damage. I can't even click on it. He's so surrounded to get the kills, but I think Preeminence with a clutch hold will just make it. Those DTs.
And the Void Ray is down. And actually, I think Twitter Caesar just killed one of his own Stalkers, and the DT is going to probably finish off everything else. This one Immortal taking out, not getting any Stalker kills, actually losing that Immortal. But these Stalkers will not live long enough to kill the base of Preeminence. So the DT saving the day. Wow.
What a game. We've got 13, 7, and 6 kills respectively on all those 3 DTs, so I think we know what won in that game.
We did. The clutch unit going down there for Preeminence, managing to squeeze himself a win away from Caesar, so a very close PvP for game number 1. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the cast, guys, it is a crazy matchup right now for the meta of PvP and Heart of the Swarm. No doubt we'll see it develop as time goes on. But anyway, we'll see you guys in game number 2. Hope you enjoyed that.